So you always wanted to work for a startup. It was just coming along the way. It was building up
Yeah,
that entrepreneurial instinct.
there's an interest, when you run a startup within a big giant corporate like Visa, you have a huge safety net in that you're doing all the things that you do in a startup, but you have this big safety net of knowing that you're getting paid a full salary and that
Yeah.
if it doesn't work, you'll fall into another role at the company. And so all the perceived risk is kind of very faded off into the background.
Right.
Um, the nice thing is I worked with amazing teams of people between both Visa and Microsoft, which provided the development team that actually developed the product that I worked on. And it was those people that actually formed the foundation team of OneSAS. And when you start a new business and you already know your team and you know what they're capable of, you enter into it with a lot more confidence than when you try to build a team from scratch, with more unknowns. And it was an
Right.
exciting time. It was a good opportunity for me to finally go fully into startup land instead of being kind of in the corporate umbrella startup land.
Right. So can we assume that you already knew that it'll become that big, or it really struggled a lot initially? Can you elaborate on that? That for everyone who's a budding entrepreneur, I would really, and for myself as well, I would really like to know how you overcame
Yeah,
those
I think
struggles.
I can talk about my own experience, and I think it's true for a lot of entrepreneurs. You start off with an immense amount of passion and confidence that your idea is valid, that it has the right product market fit, that it's going to be adopted and build and grow and be big, be huge. Everybody starts out with a vision, but what you lack in the early days is data and proof points. So you start with a lot of hypotheticals and theories, and you build your business based on those hypotheticals, and that's what we did. We had a
Right.
lot of hypotheticals. We got a lot right. We got a lot wrong. We went through phases where our confidence was challenged excessively. We
Okay.
went through the deep dark chasms of oh my god. But we had survivability, and that we genuinely believed that we had that strong foundation. And as long as we could survive those dark points, those dips in the path, those confidence challengers, we genuinely believed that we had the upside was always there, and that we would get there. And we persevered and moved between survival and thriving at the right times in the business. And that was, I think, one of our great skills is identifying when it was important to tip the balance between survival versus thriving. Because
Nice.
sometimes the challenge exists that you just know if we have to face this challenge, we have to ride this out for 6 to 9 months and survive it,
Right.
and then we can rebuild. There
Right.
is no flip a switch and immediately go into thriving mode again when something big hits you.
Right. Right.
And we
Right.
were very quick and thoughtful in the way we responded to those survival challenges, and that was a big part of our success.
Great. Great. Would it be a correct assumption? So I joined OneSAS as a head of product, and the team was amazingly passionate. Like I've never worked with such passionate group of people who are ready to do whatever it takes, and whatever it takes to achieve the goal. Like so aligned with the vision of the company. So would it be also a correct assumption that you had such an amazing, passionate, team with OneSAS? In fact, like there were people who were there right from the start, and they were there.
Yeah, I mean, we operated with absolute transparency. We never tried to have that separation of the secret things going on in the amongst the directors versus what we tell the employees. We were absolutely transparent with the good, the bad, and the ugly, and brought everybody along on that journey and brought everybody along on the decision making as well. So we made sure that people were on board with the challenges we faced and the successes that we won, and everybody had a part of that. And that was also a big part of the way we hired. There was red flags and green flags when we interviewed people as far as are they the right fit for a company that has the kind of culture you just described. Examples being, if in the first interview a person was focused on, well, my market rate is this, and I think that I should be making this much salary, and this is how much I demand, that wasn't the type of people we hired. We had people that could have been making 50 to 100% more than they were making salary-wise at OneSAS because they believed in the long-term outcome that they all received by
Yeah.
staying with us that long. And we had incredibly low turnover. The vast majority of our turnover was by our choice. I think in our entire 10 years, we only had 3 people ever resign.
Wow. Wow. And that's an amazing learning for all the entrepreneurs. Again, it's a long term, it's a long journey. It's not like 1 year, 2 years, and you flip it. So when you are creating a startup, I think one thing to remember definitely is hire the right people, hire the right, who are passionate about entrepreneurship, and one I think one of the things which Jeff emphasized was be transparent,
Yeah.
and then only everyone will be aligned with the vision.
And finding the balance between surviving and thriving is really critical, and knowing when it's important to thrive and when it's important to survive. And years ago, I remember having a conversation with somebody similar to this one where we talked about the job at the top, the CEO job is about having all your radars on all the time and not definitely always doing things, but being aware of everything so you can recognize that opportunity, that alignment of multiple things that creates the moment to jump in and push for that thriving growth and scaling opportunity, and recognizing when it was best to put all the defenses up and make sure that you survived a period that was going to be challenging.
Right.
And having that vision from that radar, and that radar really is about data and listening.
Right.
And I think that, it's not listening in a one-to-one standpoint, it's listening to the market, paying attention to what's going on out there, listening to your partners that are important to your survival, and listening to what they're really saying. A lot of times in partnerships and sales, you have a tendency to focus on what you're trying to sell and trying to get them on board with you. And I think it was really important that we spent a lot of time listening to what our partner was saying, what they really needed, and recognizing that a lot of times what our partners really wanted or needed was the depth of talent and capability that we had, but they really wanted it in-house, but didn't have it. And that's why they were partnering with us. So it was almost, in a lot of our partnerships, they were really happy partnerships, but we were their second option because they weren't able to do it in-house, which kind of fed back to our belief that at some point, as these organizations got big enough and this became strategically critical enough, that we were going to be an acquisition target for many of these organizations.